So hi everybody. Well, I'm back in the carving corner, as you can see, and today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be honing. We're going to be honing knives, chisels like this. This is a Pfeil number 7, 22 millimeter, and we're going to be honing this, and I'm going to show you how to do it with this. And we're also going to be doing a little honing on the dreaded v-gouge. Nobody likes to hone these, do they? But we'll show you how. So folks, stay tuned. Let's get at it. Okay, today I thought I'd show you guys how I do honing. This is a leather bench strop, and they're not cheap. As you can see there, $30.50 is what this one costs, and it's mounted on it's a piece of leather that's mounted on a piece of maple. And I've got several of these, and they do wear out because you see the leather bit here is kind of thin. So I'll show you what I've done is I've taken an old belt and I've just literally screwed this in. Now this could be done better because you do have to be careful when you're honing this to make sure that you don't hit the screws and stuff like that. But you know, get a good nappy one. You know, it's basically just a belt strapped in there, nice and nappy. And what you want to avoid in this thing before you even start stroping is you want to avoid, see these slick spots in here? That's where the rosin, you know, the agent that you use to kind of do the buffing, that's where it's kind of built up a little bit. So you just want to get that out of there. You just use this brass brush to kind of knock it up like that. So it's pretty straightforward. Once you've done that, you just want to take your rouge and you just want to put it on there like so. And in this case I'm going to use this number 7 Pfeil gouge, which I love these gouges. And I've got the link in my description to it how to get them. They're not the cheapest gouges in the world, but my gosh, are these things durable. So it's real easy. I've got a piece that's built in here underneath, which I'll show you. This is nothing really complicated here, folks. But I've just taken and I've put this in there and I carve against this. You know, I use it as a little stop, and I use this as a stop when I'm carving, and I use that as a stop when I'm carving. Old nappy towels on there. Okay, so to do this, all you want to do, and I'm pulling this about like that, right? And just give it a nice roll. Whoop, like that. Go to the other side, give it a nice roll. And I think a good general idea of how many times you pull this knife is about how many times you carved with it the last time you carved. So you just want to keep going like that. You can see it starting to build up there. Starting to get a little bit of shine to it as well, which I can use that brass brush and take all that stuff out, because you want it nice and fluffy, because when you start to get it built up like that, you're not doing as good a job honing. But I'll go a little bit more with this, just like that. I've been carving since 1998 with this gouge. Getting a good edge on that. And I'll tell you what though, once you get a good edge on these things, you do very little grinding when you sharpen. At least I do anyway. I do a lot more honing. I might have ground this thing 2 or 3 times since 1998. That's about it. Give that a little bit more like that. It's got a nice edge to it. So what I'm going to do is just get some of this knocked off. Excuse me. And that's all you do, usually over a garbage can. Ready for the next one? A little bit of rouge. And I've got the link to all this stuff in the description. How about we go for this? So this is another Pfeil gouge. This is a number 12. As you can see there, it's got a 12 on it, but these are darn good tools. They really are. So on this, you just want to take the flat end. You know, it's a v-gouge. Just put the one flat end down, pull it, just do it like that. About like that. Same deal, nothing complicated. And you guys out there can probably figure out a better way rather than have these screws in there, because you don't want to pull it over that, because you're gonna really mess up your edge. So you want to avoid those. But the whole thing about carving is it's strength under control. So if I can carve and stop where I want, well, I can strop and stop where I want. So that's why I've never changed it, but I'm sure you guys could come up with something better. And sometimes I'll give it a little bit of a roll at the end, just to get that bottom of the V. So to that, I'll just do this. A little bit of a roll. Flip it over to the other side. And same thing, you just want to flatten it out. Just, again, it's about an angle like that. Just take that flat part, give it a little roll to get that center bit. Flip it over again. Pretty darn good. And if I want to do the knife, I just do it the same way. Same thing. Let's get, how about one of these? These are a little bit, this is your standard Flexcut gouge here. It's in one of the kits that I've got in my description. But on this, you just want to roll with it. So you start off on one edge, and it's just gonna, I'm just gonna roll with it like that. Just kind of like that. Start on one edge, keep the angle the same, and just roll. So here we go. Start on this edge, like that. You can see on that leather, it's starting to build up a little bit of metal. That's how you're polishing it. That's the metal that's in that leather. You're just going to keep going like that. Flip it, you know, alternate the sides. Pretty good. Now on this one, you can kind of see it's starting to shine a little bit there. There you go. See how it gets that shine to it? That's when the metal builds up in the rouge on the leather. So you, again, you want it nice and fluffy. So just take that over the garbage can. Like that. I don't know if anybody else that uses a brass brush, but this is just a simple deal. You can get these things anywhere. It's a soft bristle. You know, it's not a, it's about the softest brass brush I think that you could possibly get. And again, you just want to get the shiny spots out of there. And you know, sometimes you'll use this leather so much that it'll just get built up, and no matter how much you use that brush brass brush, you can't get that stuff out of there. So at that point, what I do is I take the screws out, take this thing over to the sink with the brass brush. I put a little bit of that goop in here, you know, that liquid hand cleaner, and just kind of layer it in there, just smear it all over. And then I take this brush again with that goop in it, and I just dig out all that stuff. Dig it out, and you know, blot it dry, put it under the water, get all that junk out of there. Once you get it cleaned up, blot it dry with a towel, and then just let it dry, and then screw it back down again. Sometimes I'll take and I'll put a little bit of saddle soap on it after I do that, just to kind of give the leather some emollients. But my gosh, I think I've had this leather on here, this old belt, I've had it strapped to this thing for probably 4 years, and I don't know, I've got the other part of the belt hanging out here somewhere. I can cut it down and put a new piece on someday. But if you have trouble finding these belts, just go to like a Goodwill or something like that, or a little shop like that, and just look through the rack until you find a belt like this, you know, for $1 or $2, and save yourself having to buy another one of these for $30, and really does the job. And I use it on just about every little tool that I've got. Now this is a real small gouge that I've got here, and you know, once I put the rouge on this again, I'll show you, I can even do those little tools. Well, same thing, you just kind of hold it angle about like that. It's not a perfect science. You don't have to get it, I mean, it doesn't have to be exactly 22.5 degrees or whatever, but yeah, just same thing. You start it off on one side, and you just kind of roll it. Start it off on the other, just kind of roll it, and you'll see. You know you're getting a good edge when you get a little built up in this leather here. When you see that little bit of shine coming in, you're getting a good edge on it. You're taking just enough steel off that tip to give it a good sharp edge. There's nothing worse than trying to carve with something that's dull, because that's when it'll skip. That's when you'll get cut, and your carving won't look good, because when a dull knife goes through the wood, it sort of makes it look a little feathered. And sometimes when you're carving, you'll see a little stripe. If you get a burr on one of these edges, I can always pick that out on a carving. If somebody had a knife that they were carving with that had like a little burr on the edge, because when they're carving, it'll leave like a little line, you know, when they're digging in and carving. So that is about it, folks. I mean, it's pretty straightforward stuff. You just pick it up and go with it, and just hone that edge right back to where it should be. Sometimes even in the middle of carving, you can tell when these things get dull. Yeah, just pick them up, hone them, back to carving. Just like that. Spend a lot more time honing than you do grinding. And that's it. That's ready to go. I think it's time to carve something here in the next video, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Till then.